welcome to Data Tsunami, a podcast from Atempo. On this episode, John Deal, Sales Director for Atempo Americas, sits down with Tanner Alvarez, co-founder and head of post-production for the groundbreaking documentary studio General Assembly, along with longtime Atempo partner Kevin Frand, Senior Solutions Architect at Alt Systems. The challenge, General Assembly, opening its doors amidst two historic Hollywood union strikes, needed to find a cost-friendly solution that reliably and efficiently managed and secured their customers' data. Listen as they discuss how Atempo made this possible.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate your time. I wanted to take this opportunity to learn a little bit more about General Assembly and your mission. What is it that really drives you in your business?
Thanks, John. General Assembly is a full-service post-production company based in Culver City, California. We have an emphasis in nonfiction storytelling, documentary, independent movie, and our mission is to be able to offer enterprise-level solutions and enterprise-level tools at much more economical prices.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for joining us today. Wanted to talk a little bit more about our appreciation with you working together. You've deployed Miria and Tina into many workspaces, which has been great. You're essentially one of our MVP partners because you know our products inside and out, which is a huge tribute to your success and success from our standpoint. One thing that I want to thank you is the nice thing is when you deploy our solutions, you do it all on your own. You don't have to have Atempo come in and assist you, which is fantastic for us and great since you're able to deploy our solutions into your client sites. Tell us more about yourself and what it is that you do.
Thanks, John. I've been working in post-production for about 20 years at this point. I started at eFilm about 20 years ago. And at that time, we brought in Time Navigator, the prior product to Miria, as our tape solution for dealing with more than 600 films went through eFilm in my tenure there. And this was before Miria was a product, and we were able to use Tina to take all of our media offline and keep it on tape before it was brought back to cut together the movies. I've been very excited to watch as Atempo has grown and the product has evolved from being Time Navigator into ADA, Atempo Digital Archive, and now into its current iteration of Miria. And I think that it is the most powerful archival product that's on the market today. It's capable of dealing with data at petabyte or even exabyte scales. It's the only product I know of that's able to break up very large file systems into smaller subjobs so that when you've got a library with multiple tape drives, all of the drives can be used simultaneously. One of the big shortcomings I had with Time Navigator and with every other product that's on the market is when you have a petabyte or multi-petabyte file system, it can take hours or days or in some cases months if it needs to sequentially back up the entire file system. And if you've got a backup that starts and has to run for 3 or 4 weeks before it can restart the backup, files have definitely changed in that amount of time. And the fact that Miria, if you've got a library that's got 10 tape drives, for example, can break that into multiple subjobs and utilize all of the drives simultaneously, it's extremely powerful.
Great. That's nice. And really appreciate it, Kevin. Tanner, just a little bit more about you. Want to hear more about your challenges at General Assembly and what really drove you to consider the solution Miria, and then also give us a little bit more about your background and what drives you on a daily basis.
Sure. I'll start with a little bit of my background. So I've been in the post-production industry for a little over 10 years now, working in both New York and Los Angeles. I started at Audience Network with DirecTV, which is where I met Kevin. And then for the last 4 years, I've been a post-production executive at Netflix on the docu-series and documentary features team. I left in March 2023 to start General Assembly, and it was in reaction to the way that I saw a lot of the post-production industry going, where a lot of the facilities, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening, and a lot of these small and medium-sized facilities were being absorbed by the larger facilities. The problem there is that someone who's always worked in nonfiction, who's worked in documentaries, our budgets are extremely finite. And we need those small and those medium-sized facilities to be able to offer us the value that we need to be able to get our projects off the ground. And we want to be able to do that in a way where we don't have to sacrifice certain tools. Now, I think up to now, a lot of these productions have, in nonfiction and in the documentary world, have always had to make concessions with their tool set to be able to make the money and the value work for them. And so when I wanted to open up General Assembly, I wanted to do the opposite of that. I wanted to be able to build something where we could still offer those enterprise level tools, those responsible tool sets, those skills at a price that was much more economical and that could be approachable and accessible to folks within the documentary, the nonfiction, the independent movie community, and be a home for their projects.
Wow, that's cool. Being able to open up a business in 2023 and getting yourself started, it's quite an adventure.
Yeah, starting a post facility right before a historic strike is definitely a move. As far as the challenges that we are facing in General Assembly, I think this is a pretty common challenge for everything that we try to solve here, because we always want to keep our overhead costs low. That's where we can keep our rates low. We can offer that savings back to our customers, and we can then ensure that more money is being spent on screen and not into the maintenance that goes with these projects. When it comes to data management, though, it's a little funny because Kevin and I always talk about the fact that when people get their budgets, they're excited to talk about the cameras, they're excited to talk about the talent and the folks that they're going to hire. But then everyone ultimately forgets about the data management that comes with these projects. And as we can see, the data needs for these shows and these movies has grown exponentially over the last 10, 15 years with new cameras, new codecs, and all that. And here's the thing, though. We don't want our projects or our productions that we team up with to worry about the data management. That's why we're here. We want them to trust General Assembly to be able to handle that boring side of the business. We find it exciting, but let us handle that. And then you get to focus on the creative of your project. The problem with that is that while we're happy to take on all the responsibility there's a lot of expectations to the safety, security, and integrity of that data. And we need to make sure that we're hitting those goals for our studios and for our production partners, all while trying to keep costs low and trying to keep our prices economical. So you can see how those two things compete with one another. So we've tried other tools, and I would say that the three big things that all these other tools that we were trying for our data archival and our data management solution, they lacked one of these three things, and sometimes multiple. It was the scalability. We found a lot of tools that we were using, they weren't going to be able to scale with us as we took on more and more shows with more and more data needs. And that makes us nervous of having to pivot away from a tool in the midst of production because we've taken on too many shows. So we had to pick a tool that was going to be able to keep up with our growth. The other one was reliability. We tried a few other tools that were definitely cost effective, but the trade-off there was that there was still bugs and there was still copious amounts of troubleshooting and setup that were required with those tools. And then that unfortunately affects the third point, which is the efficiency. We needed a tool that was going to introduce an efficiency into our workflow. That way we can then take that efficiency and apply it back to our partners in the terms of savings. And unfortunately, we couldn't find the tool until Tempo, Miria. We couldn't find the tool that could accomplish all three of those.
That's really interesting, and I think a big tribute is to Kevin. Kevin, why did you suggest Myriad? What was the leading point to bring us into it? Obviously, understanding all these challenges that Tanner just mentioned is certainly key to providing the right solution for the right customer. Maybe get into more of why you chose us over some of the other ones that were tested out.
So General Assembly is a very small shop at the moment, but they're growing by leaps and bounds. And one of the challenges that facilities always run into is they start small, they build a solution for the challenges they have today. But in their case, they're primarily a Mac shop. They could end up suddenly being inundated with a project that requires either Linux systems or Windows systems or all three of the systems. And if you've got a solution that cannot deal with file systems that are Mac, Windows, and Linux, that suddenly you need multiple solutions to deal with that problem. Myria doesn't care if it's working on a Mac, Windows, or Linux system for its data mover. It doesn't care what file system it's working on. Today, they're primarily a StoreNext shop, but if they want to integrate NAS, if they want to integrate other emerging technologies, as long as the Miria server is able to see the file system, it's able to access data, it doesn't really care where the data is coming from or where it's going to. It does data management, data movement. Today, the most economical way of storing large quantities of data and quickly being able to archive and retrieve them is tape. If they decide they need to send a copy off to cloud as well, Miria has no problems writing a copy to tape and to cloud. You can, without the data back to a local file system, they could migrate the data to cloud, or they could bring it back from cloud and to their local tape drives. If they open up a second facility and they have that cross-town or cross-country, Miria could still copy the data to file systems in remote locations as well as their local location. There's no limitation on how large the file system or number of file systems, or if they want to have multiple libraries. They want to have a copy of data written to a library locally, and if they open up a colo somewhere in town because they run out of storage space locally, they could have a second copy written to a tape library that's not on site. Miria offers the ability to start small, and it can scale as large as they want to grow. Another advantage is the data format is in LTFS, which is an open format. So if they ever need to send the tapes to a client someplace else, the tape can be read on any other system, Mac, Windows, or Linux without, it's lucky for them if they also have a Tempo software. And if they don't, they can still download an open source version of LTFS and they can still retrieve the data.
Those are good points, Kevin, because one of the things that a lot of our clients are saying to us is you write in standard formats. And to us, that's critical because we want to make sure that our customers come away with their data and they don't have to rehydrate it, bring it back. And just the other piece that Tanner had mentioned, and as well as you, is the fact that we're so agnostic. Doesn't matter what's in your environment, from tape, disk, cloud, object. You're able to manage and move all your data around in all the different platforms and formats, which is great for us and for our customers. And the scalability piece is really huge.
You're listening to the Data Tsunami podcast from Tempo, leading provider of data protection and data management solutions. Today's guest, General Assembly, is a full-service documentary production studio dedicated to bringing premium services at cost-efficient price points. They have an A-list team of production professionals at their 2,700 square foot studio in Los Angeles and cater to businesses all over the world. Visit general-assembly.io for more information.
It sounds to me like, Tanner, you're pretty happy with Miria.
Oh, we're very happy with Miria.
That's good. Really, what's the number one reason why you're happy with Miria?
It's hard to pick one reason.
That's good.
I would say that we saw the benefit almost immediately with deploying the systems. We saw a reduction in the manual hours needed to maintain our data archival and data retention policies and our procedures in place, which again means that more money gets to go on screen for our creatives. And it allows us to focus on the project more and give that attention to detail that our customers are really expecting these days from our facility. The other part of that too is, I know you alluded to a little bit, but having that one destination where we can set our policies and set our movements across, whether it's the object-based storage, tape drives, on our different StoreNext arrays, or up in our cloud storage as well. Having the ability to do that all from one location and know that all those rules and those systems understand the context of what we're trying to do is really imperative for us to be able to have a robust data management system as we do, especially as Kevin has said, we're definitely on the smaller side right now.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like our product gives you the opportunity to really grow in your production environment.
John, if I can interject also, one of the other advantages of using Miria is the flexibility that whatever the challenges are that they're dealing with today, Miria is highly configurable for any of the challenges that are coming. And right now we're primarily using it for archives and for doing data synchronization between file systems, but it can also do backups. It can be set up with tasks. So it's doing either archives or backups or syncs on a given schedule. That there's a tremendous amount of flexibility that as their needs and their workflow changes, we can configure the software to meet any of those challenges. And the performance that Miria provides in terms of if suddenly they need to synchronize multiple petabytes between file systems, you can add in additional data movers with Myria with no additional cost, and you can scale the performance really linearly with tape drives or with data movers so that you can move the quantity of data in the time frame that's required.
Kevin, that's a great point, because we did just have a pretty large upgrade to our infrastructure and to our systems here at General Assembly. And that was one big concern of mine, was we were upgrading all of our different storage arrays from NAS-based storage to different types of SAN storage on Quantum's platform. And that was the big thing I brought up with Kevin, was like, is this going to cause any issues with our archival with Atempo Myria? Is there now another solution, another cost, something else that I now have to take account of with this upgrade? And it's music to my ears when Kevin can say, nope, you're all set.
That's great. That's a real positive that we hear that from a lot of our clients too. It's just being able to have the ability to make all kinds of dynamic changes. And you mentioned one thing too, which is interesting. Some of our clients are coming to us and saying, hey, we need to do a reverse cloud. We need to move that data out and put it on premises. It's a little bit more affordable, and sometimes it's a little bit more inexpensive to put it in the cloud. So there's all different reasons why people put their data in particular places, and at least with Myria, you have those options to move it around wherever and whenever you want. I want to get back to one quick thing you had mentioned, or maybe I mentioned it, regarding the strikes. How did that really impact you? You just started a new business. These strikes happen in 2023, and now there's a threat that there's going to be another strike. And how will that impact you? How do you go about making changes regarding that?
It's definitely been a challenge. The strikes have definitely interrupted a lot of all parts of the business, of course. Everyone's aware of that. I think that when it comes to post-production, there's still a slow ramp up. Even though the strikes have concluded from last year, we do still have potentially another impending strike coming ahead. And I think that's resulted in a much slower ramp up of post-production services than folks were expecting. For us, I think for any post-professional, it's definitely a hard time. But one thing that we could really lean on in General Assembly was that ethos where we want to cater to businesses and production companies of all different shapes and sizes. So we're not just going after the big 20-person editorial nonfiction show. We are wanting to cater towards the small 3-man band independent documentary teams. We're looking to help with passion projects and doc features in independent movies, stuff that's slated for film festivals. And we want to take a lot of that on. We definitely were able to stay busy during the strikes by taking on a diverse amount of projects. But I would say that going forward, it's clear to see that the studios are going to expect, and I think this is the key word for 2024, whether we like it or not, is efficiency. So we're trying to get ahead of that as much as possible by trying to show how much efficiency we can really build and how much value we can provide when we have all pieces of the post-production puzzle in-house. And then we can build those customized niche plans for those productions. I think that's going to become the new norm for a lot of folks in the industry, is how you can build a puzzle that really works with every show. There's no more default setup for projects anymore. Every project is going to need a specific setup or a unique setup to be able to accomplish what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and efficiency essentially is our middle name. We hear that from a lot of our customers. I'm become much more efficient because I can set up specific policies, right? I don't have to spend so much time inside the UI. I can just let it run it on its own, just automate things up.
And you bring up a good point of automation is very much key. And again, another one of the key features I would say of Myria that is not in, again, any other package that I've worked with is you can set up tasks. Oftentimes you'll want to do backups of each of the projects so that if there's any issues, you have the ability to go back. One of the big challenges with many of these archival packages or backup packages is you need to schedule when they're going to run. And a lot of times there's no way to know if you're working on 5 different shows and each one of them is bringing in different quantities of data. You don't want to have multiple archives running simultaneously where they're trying to step on each other and you don't have enough resources on the system. And on the flip side, if no or very little data comes in, you don't want to have the system waiting for hours before it starts its next task. And Myria has the ability to link tasks so that you can have one task start if you want to have your backups beginning at 10 p.m. or at midnight, whenever the systems start to slow down. But you can have the next task start as soon as the previous task finishes, as opposed to just setting it based on a time schedule, so that all the tasks will run as efficiently as possible.
Tanner, tell us a little bit more about some of your upcoming projects. What are you working on now? What are you seeing? What's exciting, and what's going on?
We're really excited because we have a really diverse slate of projects coming up. And of course, the default answer is I can't talk about any of them yet. But what I love about a lot of the projects we're working on that are coming out soon is the focus on diverse storytelling and telling different stories from all over the world. That's extremely important to us here at General Assembly. We love the projects we work on. It's really been a blessing to be able to work on projects that we can so easily get passionate about ourselves.
Now, it might be a dumb question, but do you have clients that are remoting into any of your systems or doing any work, or is all the editorial on site?
That's a great question. All the editorial is offsite. We have 72 Mac studios, all brand new state-of-the-art using Quantum StoreNext, and then, of course, backed up in Archive with Atempo Miria. And we haven't really seen that pivot wanting to return in person. If anything, there's a lot of benefits to having that remote post-production editorial team. We recently worked on Coach Prime Season 2, and our editorial team was all across the country. And it was actually very helpful to have folks working in different time zones, tackling the project from different angles, from different times, and having a lot of coverage for a project that had a very sensitive launch date. We were able to use a lot of that to our advantage. And the great thing too is that with all of our different vendors and partners that we've used to create our offline editorial solution, the editors don't feel like they're losing anything by being remote. Editorial solution, more diversity in your selection of your staff and your editorial team, when you can hire them almost anywhere. You don't have to chase the destination anymore. Now you get to chase the talent that you want for your project, and the right talent.
That's really cool, actually. Kevin, obviously it's great for you because Tanner has all these different projects going on and needs for solutions. I guess I have a question regarding how everybody collaborates. So if you're working on an editorial piece for a particular episode for a project, how is that group or editors collaborating? What are they using? How does that work? And what tools are you providing?
Yeah, a lot of just being really smart with our tool selection. We're using things as accessible and as easy as Slack or Google Meet or Zoom for the collaboration aspect. It's being smart with our setup and our workflow, and with setting the right expectations with the team of knowing how everyone communicates, what's the best way for everyone to communicate, and how do we stay in lockstep through this project, even if we are all not physically in person. And our tool set is really important to us. All of our workflows are extremely important to us. Being able to use the state-of-the-art stations and tools, minimizing latency, minimizing issues that might come from being in a remote setup, and making sure that folks just feel as if they are there locally at the station, all very important to us. For some folks, it is a challenge or it's an adjustment. But I feel after the pandemic, a lot of folks have made that adjustment. And a lot of folks are really liking the remote workflow a lot more and enjoying the benefits that come with it.
Oh, that's cool. As we wrap up, are there any other final thoughts, Kevin and Tanner, that you want to talk about and tell our audience?
I would say that what's really important is building a good foundational infrastructure. As long as the systems are put together well from the beginning, it makes it real easy to do additional growth and configuration. And I think we've put together a very strong foundation with the Miria server. We can add data movers as we need, both on Mac, Windows, and Linux systems as that need arises. And it leaves a lot of room for growth.
I agree with Kevin. I think infrastructure, definitely number one most important thing. And I think a close second is the partnerships. And that's not just with our productions or our studios, but that's with Atempo, that's with Alt Systems where Kevin is at. It's with all of these vendors and all of these partners that we're working with that allow us to then offer a great environment and a great service for our customers.
That's a great point. You basically stole my last point. Was we really appreciate our partnerships, right? With Kevin, with you, Tanner, without our partners, we would not be successful like we are. So we're glad we can help contribute to your success. And Kevin, you always are a joy to talk to, and we love hearing from you.
It's always a pleasure to work with great clients and great vendors. It makes doing projects a lot of fun and very easy.
Great. Thank you both for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on another episode.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
You've been listening to the Data Tsunami podcast from Atempo. Special thanks to our guests, General Assembly and Alt Systems. Atempo is a global leader in data protection and data management software solutions. Headquartered in Paris, France, Atempo has offices in Europe, Asia, and the US, along with thousands of customers and partners worldwide. Visit atempo.com for more information on how we can help maximize efficiency for your business.